Ever watched a 9-year-old dismantle an Ivy League legend with nothing but a pencil, a library card, and raw truth? Hold on. Because this isn't just a school story. It's a systems failure story. And the smallest signal in the room is about to crash the biggest ego on the stage. Stand up, Jamal. The voice belonged to Professor Richard Whitmore, 58, white, tenured Columbia University star, 3 best-selling math books, the kind of guy whose TED Talk gets shown in classrooms like scripture. Jamal Brooks, 9 years old and wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big with sneakers taped at the seams, rose slowly from his 4th-grade chair. Whitmore strolled down the aisle as if he owned the air, snatched Jamal's notebook, and flipped it open. Pages packed with equations most adults can't read without blinking. Quadratics, systems, proofs, patterns Jamal had taught himself after bedtime while his mom worked double shifts. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. "Did you copy these from somewhere?" Jamal's throat tightened. "No, sir. I did them myself." Whitmore's mouth twisted into a smile that wasn't a smile. "Don't lie to me." He lifted the notebook high so the class could see, like he was holding a contaminated sample. "Kids like you don't have what it takes for real mathematics. You're wasting my time." He let the notebook drop. It hit the filthy tile with a slap. Pages burst out and skittered across the floor like a failed experiment blowing apart. 30 students froze. 2 parent volunteers gasped. Jamal stared at his work, scattered like trash someone didn't bother to sweep. Whitmore stepped right over it, the tip of his polished shoe grinding 1 page into the ground. Jamal's chest went hot, eyes stinging, but he didn't move. What Whitmore didn't know, what he couldn't know in that moment, was that this kid he'd just tried to break was about to find a public error in Whitmore's own math, an error seen by millions, and expose it so cleanly it would detonate in front of the very people who worshipped it. To get how a 4th grader ends up holding a match over a professor's career, you've got to rewind 2 weeks. Washington Heights Elementary sits in one of the poorest corners of New York City. Nearly 8 out of 10 kids live below the poverty line. The building looks like a tired machine that hasn't been serviced in years. Paint peeling, ceiling tiles stained, ancient textbooks from 2005. Half the computer's dead. Jamal goes there. He's 9. His father died in a construction accident when Jamal was 5. His mother, Rosa, cleans hotel rooms for $11 an hour. They share a 1-bedroom apartment where Jamal sleeps on the couch because there's no other place. But here's the thing. Jamal isn't a good-at-math kid in the normal sense. He's obsessed with mathematics the way some people are obsessed with engines or music. He doesn't just want answers. He wants structure, why things work, what patterns hide underneath. He found an old algebra book at the library when he was 7. Most kids would open it, see letters next to numbers, and bail. Jamal saw shapes, colors, motion. When he looks at numbers, he doesn't see flat symbols. He sees a 3D mental model. 5s show up as blue pyramids, 7s as red spirals. Prime numbers glow green like they're alive. That's synesthesia, but Jamal doesn't know the word. He just knows math feels different in his head, like he's walking through a room other people don't see. By 9, he's teaching himself high school algebra from library books. His 4th-grade teacher, Ms. Angela Torres, caught on when Jamal finished a multiplication test in 3 minutes and sat there bored, staring out the window like his brain was idling. She gave him harder problems, so she called Columbia University's Gifted Youth Discovery Program. Every year, Columbia professors scout low-income schools for diamond-in-the-rough kids, and, if they find one, the student. Private tutoring, and a pipeline straight to Columbia after high school. It's a golden ticket. In 12 years, they'd selected 8 kids. Every single one came from a middle-class family. Not one was black. The program's gatekeeper was Richard Whitmore. He had a national reputation for spotting true talent. He'd grown up poor in rural Pennsylvania, clawed out through discipline, survived on the belief that exceptional math ability isn't born. It's built by structure, support, rigor. His TED Talk, The the myth of natural math genius, had 6 million views and a cult following. When Whitmore says this kid belongs, doors open. When he says no, those doors don't just close, they disappear. Whitmore wasn't cartoon evil. He believed his model. He looked at broken home lives, low resources, instability, and saw failure baked into the system. Not because he'd say race out loud, but because he tied success to support scaffolding kids like Jamal simply didn't have. So when Ms. Torres said she had a student who might be special, Whitmore agreed to visit out of courtesy. One school, one look. He arrived in an expensive suit and a watch worth more than Rosa made in half a year. He watched Jamal solve fractions like he was skipping stones, watched him raise his hand for every question, watched him doodle geometric patterns in the margins without even looking down, like the shapes were running through him. After class, Torres handed Whitmore Jamal's notebook. Page after page of self-taught algebra, some right, some slightly off, but all driven by real thinking. Whitmore closed the notebook and studied Jamal's small, worn hoodie, duct-taped shoes, quiet. Then he studied the classroom around him, cracked whiteboard, broken sharpener, stained ceiling. He studied Torres young and idealistic. And inside his head, he made a decision that looked like objectivity, but was really prediction bias. This kid doesn't have the foundation. This teacher wants a miracle. He didn't walk away right then. He set a trap. 3 days after the public notebook humiliation, Torres cornered Whitmore in the hallway. "Professor, I don't think you were fair to Jamal." Whitmore's smile was thin and practiced. "Fair? Miss Torres, I've evaluated talent for 30 years. That boy has aptitude, yes, but aptitude isn't enough. He's picking up fragments without foundation. It's like building a house on sand. Single mother, 2 jobs, no father figure, no structure, no one checking his work. Those factors matter. If I put him in our program and he fails, I waste a slot meant for someone ready." Torres pushed back. "Then give him a fair chance to prove himself." Whitmore paused, then something like amusement crossed his face. "Fine, but on my terms." That afternoon, after school, he returned to the classroom where a dozen kids stayed late for homework help. Jamal was working a geometry problem at his desk. Whitmore called him to the front. "Your teacher says you deserve a chance." "I agree." He wrote on the whiteboard, "Find all twin prime pairs from 1 to 1,000, then explain why they appear in the pattern they do." Twin primes are primes separated by 2. It's a problem professionals study. He capped the marker like a judge sealing a sentence. "If you can solve it and explain the pattern, I'll recommend you. You have until Friday, 5 days." A student blurted, "Isn't that college math?" Whitmore didn't blink. It separates real thinking from memorization. Then he added the real poison. "No help from adults. I'll know. Any assistance voids your chance. If you're truly gifted, you won't need help." "Right." Jamal's hands shook. It was an impossible problem with an impossible timeline and a rule designed to isolate him. He could say no, save himself, but then he'd always wonder if he backed down because the world told him to. He reached into his hoodie pocket and touched the small black stone his father gave him before he died. Copying the problem into a fresh notebook. Not because he wasn't scared, but because something in him, the same thing that sees primes glowing green, couldn't stop now. Saturday morning, library open at 8 a.m. Jamal checks out 6 number theory books and sets up at a corner table. He hand lists primes, circles them, marks twins. He pushes to 200. His hand cramps. He keeps going. At 300, he sees clustering near multiples of 30, 29 and 31, 59 and 61. Why 30? Sunday he pushes to 600. Pattern holds, breaks, reforms. He hates the inconsistency. Monday after school he works in class while Torres grades papers, saying nothing. Tuesday he's running on 4 hours of sleep. By midnight he has the twin prime list complete 205 pairs to 1,000 tachlers, verified twice. But he still doesn't fully know why the pattern appears and breaks. That part gnaws at him. Then Tuesday night he remembers Whitmore's TED Talk. Maybe there's a clue. He finds it on a library computer, The Myth of Natural Math Genius. He watches, half listening through exhaustion, until minute 14 when Whitmore says confidently, "A misconception is that twin primes appear randomly. They follow modular forms. For example, there are no twin primes from 400 to 450 Ea desert zone." Jamal jolts. Something feels wrong. He grabs his handwritten list, scans the 400s, and stops. 419 and 421, twin primes. His stomach flips. Did he mess up? He tests 419, no divisors, prime. Tests 421, prime. He checks again. 431 and 433, another pair. The professor is wrong in a video watched by 6 million people. Jamal finishes his assignment Wednesday night. 22 handwritten pages. Part 1, the list. Part 2, observations about multiples of 30, honest about uncertainty. Part 3, 3 respectful paragraphs noting Whitmore's TED claim and asking if his own calculations were mistaken. Thursday night he can't sleep. "What if I'm wrong?" he asks his mom. Rosa sits beside him. "You worked harder than any kid I know." Morning he hands the folder over. Whitmore flips through, smirks, and says, "Where did you copy this from?" Jamal whispers, "I didn't." Torres backs him. Whitmore hardens. "I'll review. Any cheating ends this now." At 3 p.m., he calls Jamal back in front of classmates and a few parents, including Rosa. "Your twin prime list is accurate," Whitmore admits. 205 pairs. Kids clap. Jamal exhales. Then Whitmore attacks the explanation weak pattern. Guessing. Jamal's heart drops. And then Whitmore dismisses the TED correction as misunderstanding. Jamal shakes but pushes forward. "Sir, I checked. 419 and 421 are twin primes in that range." Whitmore snaps. "You calculated wrong." Rosa stands. "Can we check it right now?" Whitmore opens his laptop, types, foot tapping once. "Is 419 prime?" "Yes." "Is 421 prime?" "Yes." Classroom silence. You could hear a pencil drop. Whitmore's face drained. He closed the laptop slowly like someone shutting a door on a reality he didn't want. "I may have misremembered the range," he muttered. Not an apology. Barely a concession. But everyone heard what happened. A 4th grader corrected a Columbia professor in front of witnesses. Within 48 hours, a parent's clip hit Facebook, then TikTok, then everywhere. Headlines popped. 9-year-old finds error in viral TED Talk. Poor black student outsmarts Ivy League professor. People celebrated and argued. Some comments got ugly. Jamal read them like they were aimed at his ribs. Columbia called Whitmore in. The chair, Dr. Patricia Carter, said the TED claim was now officially corrected. "You need to recommend the boy." Whitmore clenched. "One moment doesn't prove sustained excellence. I want a private final assessment, him, me, neutral observer, real testing conditions." Carter approved. Thursday, 2:30 p.m., private room, 5 problems, 30 minutes, 10 minutes explanation. Torres warned Rosa. The setup isolates Jamal with the man who humiliated him. Jamal tried to prepare, but fear crawled into his sleep. His appetite, his confidence. He got hate texts. He heard classmates joking he'd choke. He nearly cracked. Then an elderly white man at the library introduced himself. Morris, retired math teacher. He'd watched the video. Finding that error took real thinking. "How do you see numbers?" Jamal told him about colors and shapes. Morris smiled. Synesthesia. Einstein had it too. It's a gift. And people won't understand it. He handed Jamal an old notebook. Not to copy. To know you're not alone. In that room, remember, math was here before Whitmore. It'll be here after. You're not fighting him. You're finding truth. Truth doesn't care who thinks they're the smartest. Thursday came. Jamal walked into the assessment room with the stone in his pocket, Morris's notebook in his bag, and a shaking body that still refused to quit. Whitmore sat at a table with Dr. Helen Park, a neutral Columbia observer. 5 problems slid over. Jamal worked like his life depended on it, because in a way it did. He solved 4 cleanly and built a solid approach to the 5th. Then Whitmore changed the rules mid-test. Adversarial questioning, follow-ups, interruptions designed to make Jamal doubt. Jamal stumbled verbally, not because he didn't know, but because Whitmore kept yanking the thread of his confidence. He walked out crushed, convinced he'd failed. But Park had seen everything. She wrote a 6-page report detailing the sabotage 3 days later at parent-teacher night in a packed auditorium. Whitmore announced Jamal wasn't ready. He framed rejection as protection. Jamal felt himself drowning. Then Park stood, walked down the aisle and said, "I observed the assessment." Jamal solved 4 problems entirely and demonstrated exceptional reasoning. The verbal portion was undermined by rule changes and psychological pressure not disclosed beforehand. This was not evaluation. It was sabotage. She called out the pattern. 12 years, 8 kids selected 0 black students. Whitmore had decided Jamal would fail before he began. Then she dropped the final output. "I am recommending Jamal Brooks directly. Columbia has approved my authority to do so. I will be his mentor." The room erupted. Stunned applause. People on their feet. Rosa crying into Jamal's hair. Whitmore stood frozen, then finally spoke with a quiet, shaken voice. "I was wrong. I looked at Jamal and saw deficits I expected to see. He proved me wrong about what's possible, about who belongs. I'm sorry I made you prove so much." Jamal walked to the front, small but steady now. "There are others like me who see math differently and teach themselves from library books. They deserve chances, too." Whitmore nodded. "They do." 20 minutes later, Park handed Jamal her tablet. He opened an email from Ted, an official correction notice published, verifying Jamal's twin prime finding and crediting him by name and age on one of Ted's most watched math lectures ever. 6 million viewers would now see his correction forever. Jamal stared at his name on the screen like it was a doorway that had finally appeared, where there had been walls. 2 weeks later, Columbia sent a full scholarship acceptance. Washington Heights threw a celebration, but Jamal stayed Jamal, still in the hoodie, still working on the couch at night, still seeing green primes glow in his head. And the first thing he did with his new sense of belonging wasn't bragging. It was helping another kid in class understand fractions by comparing them to pizza slices, because real genius isn't just solving hard problems. It's remembering what it felt like to be told you didn't belong and refusing to let the next person feel that alone. If this story hit you, share it with someone who had to prove themselves twice, as drop a comment about a time you were underestimated, and subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to stay small, because sometimes the most powerful correction doesn't just fix an equation, it fixes an entire system.